Welcome to the Nightly Rant
with
your hosts, Mike
and Torya.
This is the show where we examine society from a sarcastic point of view.
If you like insane conversations, this is definitely the show for you.
Let's get into today's topic. YPN people, I don't know about you, but I love helping out a friend. That's why I want to shout out my friend Brian Little and his podcast, Your Favorite Blockhead. This is the only show that manages to weave together peanuts and MMA into one heck of an amazing podcast. You can find Your Favorite Blockhead wherever your favorite podcasts reside and at yourfavoriteblockhead.com. Do me a huge favor and listen to Brian's show. You'll be entertained and you'll help out a friend. Now, as I said, let's get into today's topic.
It's so weird. Usually at the end of the year, like we just experienced, the news cycle is pretty dead.
Christmassy?
But now, like this past holiday season, so many things went on that were newsworthy.
Yeah, there was a lot of them. However, most of the news is dog shit, and I don't give a rat's ass about it. But today, I saw something that I find rather amusing.
Okay, before you go there, though, if you think about it, last year, what we were dealing with was the Trump crowd saying that the vote was stolen.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all you heard on all the news. And, you know, now you're dealing with, you know, oh, Biden's falling apart.
He's a dumbass over here. He's a dumbass over there.
It
seems like every holiday season, January, whatever, they're bitching about.
Watch this. These last two times have made me super tired. Like, I just want it over. So you said you found some interesting article.
I'm going to read you the headline.
All right.
Suicide pods now legal in Switzerland, providing users with a painless death.
Okay. Before you go any further, in the interest of fairness, I actually saw this article, but did not read this article. So we're okay.
Did you see it from Global News?
The title. I did see the title of the article, and I was going to come back and read it later, but then I never did.
Well, I'm surprising you with this beautiful topic.
Well, I must be something I'm meant to hear, though, because
right?
Here it is again.
So the country's medical review board announced the legalization of the Sarco suicide pods this week. They're operated by the user from the inside.
In what country again?
Switzerland.
Okay.
So the developer of the pods and founder of Exit International is the name of their corporation. Hilarious. A pro-euthanasia group told the news that the machines can be towed anywhere for the death, and one of the most positive features of the capsule is that they can be transported to an idyllic outdoor setting. So effectively, you get into the suicide pod, you get whatever you get to make you hallucinate your beautiful thing, or it's VR, I don't know. It doesn't actually say all that in the article about how it works. And then they lower the oxygen level, and you're injected with a cocktail that slowly and peacefully puts you into a coma, and then you die. So they tout that it's a completely painless way to go, and you can die in the place of your dreams. And I just think it's so neat. Also sick and fucked up, but neat. Now I want your opinions.
Well, I would never ever classify it as neat. Because I don't know. I just don't see it as neat. When someone is at the point where they're giving up and they're not going to let nature take its course and they just give up and they take their life themselves. I mean, if my mother had done that, I would have lost 10 years of time with her.
Most of the people who go the medically assisted suicide route are in extreme pain with zero quality of life.
Can you back that statement up, though?
I was looking at some statistics earlier, and like 98% of people who are choosing physician-assisted suicide are in hospice, which means their life is garbage.
Where is this number?
I don't know. I could find it for you if you really want. I'm not finding it right now, but...
Okay, that's fine.
Medically assisted suicide in Canada, I only know about Canada, sorry, I don't know about Switzerland.
That's okay.
Is only legal if both your doctor and a psychiatrist recommend that route for you. They say that, like, you're not getting better, your quality of life is nothing, you've been mentally evaluated.
That's a different story.
Right. So I think that for people who are in that situation, which sounds awful,
I feel like here's my bottom line on this, okay? Just I can bottom line it for you. I think that depending upon how you adjust the facts, I think it's kind of like how when you're listening to music, you have the balance, you have the fade, you have bass, you have treble. Sometimes you have mid-range if you're lucky. Ooh. And you adjust the tone the way you like it. Next person might not like it like that. They're going to adjust it a little bit differently. It just that's what it feels like to me. Like it's one of those situations where in some cases it's perfectly okay and in other cases it's morbid.
Well, yeah. But I was kind of getting to why I described it as neat.
Okay, well, we'll get there, but let's just address that fact that it is, I think it's kind of a transient issue. I think it depends on the sum of the facts presented.
I think it's one of those things that people should be allowed to choose for themselves. I add it to the list of things that everybody else just needs to butt the fuck out of. That's my opinion of it. P.S.
I feel like there's a lot of nasty room for coercion. For someone being coerced into killing themselves.
Yeah.
Basically murder by forcing someone else to commit suicide. And unless somebody really suspects that, they're never going to figure that out.
I think that's why there's so much evaluation beforehand.
Well, right. That's why I think something like that is smart, because there's evidence that that's a path that you might want to take. Because otherwise you could be forced to do it. Or like I said, like in the case of my mom, I just give up. I just give up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight. And I mean, it was 10 years. And then she didn't even die of the very thing that was supposed to kill her in 6 months.
Yeah.
So.
I get it.
My point being, probably had she taken a little better care of herself, not pushed herself as hard, her heart would have been in better shape. Because she wasn't able to get a lot of exercise because of the oxygen.
Right.
But had she just kind of taken it easy, I don't think she would have had the heart attack. And the heart attack is what finished everything off. So she doesn't have the heart attack. She could have lived a lot longer. Who knows?
You know what? I 100% see your point. I think that's, like I said, that's the purpose of the psychological evaluations, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't sound like they have anything like that.
That's what I found interesting about this article, and maybe something that I wasn't particularly down with. The pod does the psychological evaluation, and I'm putting finger quotes around this. P.S.
Yeah.
Does the psychological evaluation through a series of questions. You take those like mental health quizzes online, and it's like, here's 35 questions you have to answer. Oh, by the way, you have severe anxiety.
Yeah, they ask you like the same question 12 different ways.
Correct. So that's how it's going to do it's going to do this quote unquote psychological evaluation. I don't like that. I feel like there's too much room for machine error there.
Yeah.
And I really do think the psychological part is a big part of medically assisted suicide.
I kind of think it's the key.
That's fair.
I mean, that's what I put on it. I place it as the ultimate authority. I don't think it should be allowed. And I know this is not a very libertarian view.
I know. You're being inconsistent.
But I don't think it should be allowed for you to just decide to kill yourself. And here's why. It's interesting. People are going to take it as me forcing someone not to choose to die. That's not really what's happening. Because if you really want to choose to die, you can make that choice because you're dead. So who's going to arrest you and give you a crime?
That's why I always think it's so freaking ridiculous that suicide is against the law.
Well, because that's if you screw up and you don't succeed, now you're in trouble.
I get it.
But even that rarely results in charges because it's more of this person should probably go seek mental help. And that's really where I'm at with it, is I think that a person who's suicidal like that should be given the mental help first before being allowed to make that decision, an ultimate choice.
This isn't for people who just want to off themselves. This is for medically assisted suicide.
But it's just a machine, and you get in there. Someone that prescribes the death for you?
I would think so, yeah. That's how most medically assisted suicide works.
I mean, all right. That makes me feel, maybe my problem here is that I don't know anything about medically assisted suicide. Maybe that's my problem. But I will tell you this. You know what's really interesting? This is going to go a little off topic, but I think
off the topic.
I think we kind of beat the crap out of that part of the topic. But that whole medically assisted suicide thing, I'll never forget. It was like Proposition 8 or something like that. And
It wasn't that long ago.
oh, it was
it?
the first time it was.
Oh, it's been on there a lot of times. Got it.
Like 30 years.
Ooh.
Probably. Nah. Has to be more like 29 years because we came in Cyprus and that's where this happened. The church was like, okay, well, we just passed around. Here's the offering plate. Okay, great. And then all of a sudden the priest is like, now we're passing around another offering plate. That's a special offering. And we're voting. We want to vote no on Proposition 8, which is assisted suicide. We want to vote no on that. We do not want that to be legal. And then he was talking about why. And then all of a sudden he goes, so the plate's coming around, and don't forget, there are people on your left and your right who are watching what you're doing, and they're going to know if you don't donate. And I was like, whoop. I got up. You know me. And I've been this way forever. What do you think happened? You think I ever went back to that
You
church
got up,
ever again?
You walked out. You probably let the door slam behind you because you wanted them to know you were leaving.
Yes.
And then you never came back
Ever again.
or answered any of their phone calls
Ever again. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it's because people want to shove their crap down your throat. I don't care if you put it out there and let me make up my own mind, but don't shove it down my throat.
You probably wouldn't have even cared if he came out and said this is the stance of the church on this issue, just so that you're aware.
Yeah. I'm good with that. I'm 100% good with that. It's the, oh, by the way, people are watching. So you're bad if you don't go our way. That's just, no. Bye.
Medically assisted suicide came on the ballot a couple of times when I was still living in Canada.
Yeah, and it's been here.
And,
it's been here. You're not wrong. It's been here recently-ish.
Yeah. Yeah. And I worked for a temp agency for 6 months when I was between jobs.
Okay.
And they didn't get me a lot of work. But one of the jobs they got me was campaign calling. So for 8 hours a day for 4 weeks, I made calls on behalf of this dude running for office and the medically assisted suicide people. So I know lots about it now.
Well,
because you have to answer their questions.
At least you made decent money doing that.
I sure did.
That's not a difficult job.
No. I mean, you need to drink a lot of water because you get some of those old biddies on the phone.
And they just talk and talk and talk and talk. Yeah, I know.
But
I
didn't
be one of those old biddies sometimes.
They didn't legalize it in Canada until 2016. So it's super recent.
You were living here then?
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. That's really, see, I don't know why, and I really feel kind of remiss at this point. But at some point, because like I pointed out, there was a big appearance of assisted suicide as an issue in my own life when, the church acted the way they acted, and I knew of this thing. And I often thought, if my mom had ever had that opportunity, she was the type who would have taken advantage of it, and I would have lost all that time. And so then you kind of go, well, there needs to be some way to weed out those people. There has to be a way. And I always struggle with it because I think in one way people are going to say you're trying to control the person. And really what you're trying to do is save a life.
Yeah.
I mean,
I go down your path.
They still have the choice to off themselves. You can't really stop them if that's what they really want to do. That's why when you said before, it's stupid that it's illegal. In a sense, I totally agree with you on that. I mean, obviously they have that law there so that if you screw up and you don't succeed, they can charge you.
It's more so that they can put you in under psychiatric evaluation.
It's that they give them, because instead of actually, they put the threat of criminal charges over your head.
But they just hold you in hospital for 72 hours.
You in hospital, and then they're like, okay, this is what you're going to do. This is your plan. For the next 6 months, we're going to defer this case. And this is the plan. If you do that, this never happened.
Right.
And that's how they work the justice system. It just is. And
I go down the same path as you, by the way. But what if the diagnosis was wrong path? And then I think, you know what? I'll deal with that when it's in my family and it's my business.
I just think, I just think, well.
And I live more in the libertarian land than you do on this.
Yeah, you do, because it would be perfectly okay for you to say what you just said. It's my family. I get to make the choice.
Right.
So that's what you would do. I'm saying that I had a better argument than this earlier, and now I can't remember exactly what I went with it. No, I just can't. I don't know what happened there, but
Probably
it's
talked
okay.
you out of some of it.
You probably did, because that happens. And that's
Yeah.
the thing, that's something I think is educational for people who are listening, is be able to change your viewpoint based on what somebody else says. Because if you're not able to do that, it's usually for one reason and one reason only. You're not listening.
Even if say there's 100 ticks and you're at like tick 99 and you listen to the other person and they take you to tick 98, you're still making that decision. You haven't changed at all.
Yeah.
But now you're 1% more rational. You know?
All right. I mean, that's exactly what I'm trying to say, is you make up your own mind. And that's the key here. Right. And, you might, on 98 things, you might agree with me on 46 of them, but not on 2 of them. I mean, that is what it is, I believe these 48 things, you believe 46 of those things. Great.
Right. And the other 2 we're just never going to agree on. But you know what's interesting? There are things that we don't agree on and haven't agreed on ever. But we've slowly, over time, as we've had more discussions about those things, drifted towards one another.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too, is that can happen, but you have to be willing to listen for that to happen.
And respect the other person. Right.
Because you listen and you kind of go, all right, I'm willing to give you that 1 degree right there. I'm willing to give you that. So now you're closer to you're a little bit higher than the middle now. You got a little more than the majority. And then, then I might find a 2-pointer. And now I'm a little bit more than the majority. Right. But in the end, we end up with a number.
Yeah.
And we go with it.
And 5 years from now, that number might change again because new facts have emerged. Because you and I are generally the type of people who are willing to consider other people's opinions on things and make an educated decision for ourselves based on those opinions.
Agreed. And I'm going to bring this home this way. Okay. The way I'm going to bring it home is that I'm sitting here thinking like, you're not wrong. Like we're going to have our opinion on things. And as long as we're willing to listen, we would be able to modify our opinion based off of what other people say. Now, what people need to understand is that doesn't necessarily mean, as we sort of exemplified a little bit ago, that doesn't necessarily mean we suddenly agree with you because you made a good point.
Right.
We're going to agree with you on that point, but maybe not on all the others. So again, it's kind of like we were talking about. You have 100 things and you agree on just one of them. So you disagree on 99. I mean, there's so many ways to play that, but the point is there's a difference.
Right.
And you've made your choices and I get to make my choices.
Right.
And I feel like that's what you're trying to do is in the best interest of that other 98% that agree with you.
Right.
So it's not really a control thing, but it's more of like this is what's in everybody's best interest. Because like I said, in the end, what that does is it stops people who are going to fraud the society anyway by lying and saying, I'm in my last stages when they're not. Like they just found out their diagnosis and they've given up. Well, they won't be able to do that because it's illegal.
Right.
But the person who's at the end of their life, they're going to be able to do that. You know why? You're either going to get the approval from the government, thumbs up, or you're not. But if you don't, there's nothing stopping you from making sure that you blow your head off or whatever.
Right.
Sorry. I hate to say it that way, but there just isn't anything. I'm trying to be honest. And I hate that thought, but that's why I go the route I go, because I think that it's still, it stops the fraudulent person who, by the way, you shouldn't like in the first place. They're fraudulent. It stops them, but it allows this truly sick person to do what they need to do. I think that's actually better than the way you said, now that I think about it. Okay. So that's how I'll bring it home.
It's home, man. Now it's bedtime because me and the Bree and the Yogi, we're exhausted.
Me too. It's been a long, long, long week.
It's been a long pair of years. How about that?
Yeah, it really has. I mean, talk about upheaval.
Yeah, anyway. On that just super depressing note, good night, everyone.
Hasta la bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Nightly Rant.
If you enjoyed the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Google Play.
If you didn't enjoy the show, please just ignore that previous request for a rating.
This has been a Yogi's Podcast Network production.